There was a little child who lived in a small village. Not far from the village was a garden full of guava trees. Every day, the little child would go to the garden and pick sweet, juicy guavas to eat. There were so many trees laden with ripe fruit that he could pluck as many guavas as he liked. The child loved this daily ritual, and it always filled him with joy and contentment. One day, however, when the child went to the garden, he noticed something that made his heart sink. The guava tree that he had been plucking fruit from every day was completely bare. All the guavas had vanished. The child couldn't believe his eyes. He looked around, hoping to find at least one guava left on the tree, but it was no use. Every single fruit had been eaten. At that moment, the child felt a deep sadness wash over him. He couldn't understand why someone would come and take all the guavas. He had never seen the tree without fruit before. The child stood there for a long time, staring at the bare branches and wondering what had happened. As the days passed, the child couldn't shake off the feeling of emptiness that had settled within him. He missed going to the guava tree and plucking fresh fruit to eat. He missed the sweet taste of the guavas and the joy that they brought him. The child wanted to find out who or what was responsible for taking all the guavas. He wanted answers. So the child came up with a plan. He decided to hide near the guava tree and wait until he saw the culprit. The child found a spot to hide behind a tall wall. He stayed there patiently, keeping his eyes on the guava tree. Hours passed, but nothing happened. The child started to lose hope when suddenly he heard a loud crash in the bushes nearby. The child held his breath and watched as a huge gorilla emerged from the foliage. The gorilla walked towards the guava tree and the child gasped in surprise. The gorilla reached out with its powerful hand and plucked a bunch of guavas in one swift movement. The gorilla then turned and walked away, leaving the child in awe. The child knew that the gorilla was the one who had been stealing the guavas. But why? What was the reason behind the gorilla's actions? The child wanted to find out, so he decided to follow the gorilla. The child ran after the gorilla, his heart pounding in his chest. He chased the creature across the village and into a small clearing. There, amidst a patch of tall grass, stood a small hut. The gorilla had disappeared inside. The child hesitated for a moment, torn between his curiosity and fear. But his desire to understand the gorilla's actions was stronger. So he cautiously approached the hut and peeked inside. What the child saw inside the hut made him feel a surge of emotions. The big, scary gorilla was sitting on the ground with its back against the wall. In its hands, it gently cradled a tiny baby gorilla. The gorilla was offering a piece of the stolen guava to the baby, who reached out with its small hand and took it. The baby gorilla looked up at its mother with innocent eyes, and the gorilla responded with a soft, loving gaze. The child couldn't believe what he was seeing. The fierce-looking gorilla wasn't just a thief, it was a caring, loving parent. In that moment, the child felt a deep sense of understanding wash over him. It wasn't anger or resentment that filled him, but a sudden wave of empathy and compassion. The child realized that the gorilla had only taken the guavas to feed its hungry baby. It wasn't doing it out of selfishness or greed. The child felt tears welling up in his eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of joy and newfound understanding. From that day on, the child never looked at the gorilla the same way again. He understood that sometimes things are not what they seem and that even the most fearsome creatures are driven by love and care for their families. And whenever the child felt a surge of anger or resentment, he remembered the gorilla and its baby and found solace in their story.